These exciting and challenging episodes draw out the superheroic and warrior-like characteristics of gold miner Tony Beets and the Winchester crew, who survived the challenge of rescuing their latest machinery. How would Winchester crew cope with the situation when their excavator stops working due to chain issues? How will they get their desired outcome in this situation? Let's plunge into the super exciting ventures along with Tony Beets and the Winchester crew in their gold rush. Tony Beets dives into his mission to find gold on Paradise Hill, Yukon. Maintaining his previous record, Tony Beets is advancing rightly to achieve his aim of digging 5,000 ounces of gold, using the advanced machinery that operates to carry out his mission successfully. The main challenge that he faces in his venture is the weather conditions that can cause a huge disruption in his way. It is the middle of September, and the continuous rain is heightening the tension for the chief of the clan, Dyke, as it slows down the machines. He is all set to dig the 80 pup cut that has much scope to find a handsome amount of gold, as he is only 900 ounces short of reaching his goal. He is so enthusiastic to see the piles of gold in the 80 pup cut, but the rain is causing difficulties for them, as it fills the pond with water. They had already faced the exact challenge 12 weeks ago that resulted in the complete seizure of their work when the ponds were filled with water and they had to build them up again. This time, the same rain scenario presses heavily upon his nerves, and he directs Mike, one of his crew members, to take the 220 excavator to the dike by the pump area to fix things up and to prevent the disastrous results of the water coming down in the ponds and disrupting their activities. Mike is driving the excavator 220 to the dike, moving through the slimy mud. He hopes to get to the dike as soon as possible amid increasing rain. The excavator slows down gradually because of the muddy ground, which restricts it from moving any further. Suddenly, the excavator stops and begins to sink gradually. He looks disappointed to see the excavator sink in there. This is the point when Tony reaches there and wishes to get the sunken excavator back. He shuts down all his mining operations as it cannot be pursued without that excavator, and he cannot let his machine go this way. Initially, they plan to drag out the sunken excavator with the help of 2 other excavators, but that effort brings no fruit at all. They need to expand the canvas of their struggles to bring heavy machinery to make it work. As soon as Tony formulates a plan to draw out the excavator, they are all set to implement it instantly. He reveals his plan to bring reinforcements. He proposes to bring the 18T D6 dozer and the colossal 115T D11. He plans to bail the water out around the sunken excavator and push the coarse tailing into that hole with the help of a D6 dozer to make a solid base for the excavator. Finally, the colossal D11 will bring out the excavator while being on the solid reinforced ramp, as it is an 850 horsepower monster. They find a ray of hope in the plan. Although the plan seems to be wonderful, it proves to be really hard to operate because of the immense muddy water. Tony takes charge of the D6 dozer and begins to bail the water out. It begins to show the progress it was supposed to make. On the other hand, Mike starts pushing coarse tailing into the pit, and it works wonders for them. The heavy rain slows down the gold hunt process in Paradise Hill, but Tony is still optimistic to get more out of the 80 pup cut, as it has proved to be very fertile for producing gold. Back at their place, Tony is sitting at the dinner table with his family. He laughs at Mike, pointing out that he is responsible for letting their excavator sink in the mud, as he has been ignoring directions while driving the excavator. He seems to be happy to get rid of the tension in 2 to 3 hours. Mike mentions it being quite easy to get the excavator back, whereas Tony claims the success to be the result of his wisdom and engineering, laughingly. Meanwhile, Mike pours the collected gold into the tray to weigh it. Tony needs 300 ounces of gold to keep their family system running. As soon as Mike begins to pour gold from the jar, all the family members focus their attention on the scale and they begin to read it aloud. Soon the reading crosses 300 and reaches 500 ounces, which is much more than their expectations. They get 500 ounces of gold worth $850,000 and make a total of 4601 ounces as a whole. They consider it a great outcome from their expedition with severe weather conditions. On the other side, Jason Fraser, another mining chief, has come to Tony Beets' Hunker Cut along with his Winchester crew. It is their first season in Yukon, and they are reaching almost the end of it. They are so desperate to go home after the labor of a long summer season. All they need is 200 ounces of gold to pay their landlords so that they can continue living freely. They are hopeful to attain their desired result of getting around 200 ounces of gold. Tony approves the idea, as he will have a 30% share of it. They have already reached 106 ounces and the whole cut is almost explored. John Van Thiel holds the steering wheel of the truck with a double-barrel wash plant that he has made at home for the Winchester. It has been working quite well throughout the season, and he is still hoping it will continue in the same way. The third member of their skeleton crew, who is an ex-logger, Butch, goes from being a newbie on an excavator to a grateful excavator operator. He announces being on the last thread of 10,000 yards when the excavator experiences a sudden setback. The chain of the excavator breaks while working. He jumps down the excavator and rushes for Jason to inform him that the trommel has stopped working. Jason arrives there to examine the situation, and they find the chain hanging down the excavator, causing it to stop working. They find the chain broken from the master link that holds together the entire chain, and if it has stopped working, the Winchester will be unable to spin their double-barrel wash system. They conclude that they need to find another master link to the chain to prevent any delay in their work. They explore a big sack of links and find the one that can be helpful in the situation. John directs Butch to attach the broken master link. He asks him to turn the black button on the far side to the opposite and turn the TRL on. Then he asks him to let it go slowly, holding it. Then he directs him to move his hand a little bit as he does not want to crush his hand. As soon as he lifts his hand, the chain misses its wheel and they have to stop it for a while. They give it another try to repeat the process, and this time they make a little progress. Meanwhile, Jason arrives there with the master link and climbs up the ladder to attack it with the chain. Finally, the Winchester crew succeeds in continuing their mining operation after the long 2 hours
right away because the scales were too big to make a model or take pictures of it. Because people who saw it remember it. A drawing was made of it. And there is now a copy in the Denali Museum. Miners in places with lots of gold keep finding important things. For sure, Parker Schnabel has shown that he is a strong person. Let's take a quick look back at his amazing journey. The sparkling nugget. Parker had to find his way through a world full of new claims and cutting-edge technology advances in Season 10 of Gold Rush. A big event happened in the middle of all the digging activity. The electrified nugget was found. Parker, his team, and Gold Rush fans were all very excited about the find because it was so rare and special. When Parker set out on his quest, people were most excited about finding bigger and better things. He hoped to haul and grow his business across Klondike and Scribner Creek. The electric nugget was about 41.8 ounces in weight and got its name from a dendritic crystal attic that looked like lightning bolts. The nugget's unique feature makes it stand out from other finds and a rare natural wonder, which raises its value above its face value. As the season went on, episode 15, $1 Million Payday, became a strong candidate for showing the exciting secret. In the end, the explosive nugget adds a brilliant chapter to Parker's history of hold mining. Its market value is high because it is hard to find and has a beautiful crystal structure. It will always be remembered as an important and memorable Gold Rush find. The bounty at Eureka Creek. Parker set out on a dangerous adventure at the start of Season 7 of Gold Rush. He learned about how hard the mining business is by dealing with problems like broken equipment, unstable hold yields, and the risks of unexplored terrain. Even so, he wasn't going to give up. He invested in cutting-edge technology and tweaked his business to meet his challenges and make a huge recovery. Around the middle of the season, there was a big change, and watchers saw Parker's work at Eureka Creek start to pay off. After that, there was a long time of impressive gold recovery, which is where the name Eureka Creek Bounty comes from. The peak of this reward was reached by episodes like Eureka Payday and King Knopf Klondike. Parker always found a lot of gold, going above and beyond what fans expected and what he had found before. It was impossible to hold back their happiness as the team enjoyed the results of their hard work and persistence. One thing that makes the Eureka Creek Bounty unique is that it was a turning point. Parker's constant success in finding gold in the area made him a leader in the tough world of gold mining. Because he kept having success, he was able to move his business to other places and buy better technology and tools. Even though Parker has found a lot of gold, he is still losing money. Since he started working as a miner when he was 16, he has lost a lot of money. allow us to look at some of the losses he has went through. A huge $3 million loss. Parker and his team put a lot of money into an area in Alaska and then got 108 ounces of gold from the waste that old gold miners left behind. But what really made things better was an area called the Wolf Cut. It was untouched land that was thought to have more than 2,000 ounces of gold and be worth more than $3 million. They even called this Wolf Cut the most important pit of the season because of how much information it gave them. Parker's crew needed 2 months just to get to the pay layer of the cut because the area is so deep. Things don't always go as planned, though. That's how things were for the team. A terrible flood a few weeks ago turned the Wolf into a lake. Because it was so hard, Parker thought it would be better to take all the money and go to Vegas than to drown in the Wolf Cut. Parker, who was known for being stubborn, wouldn't just give up the place. After some trouble, the team was able to push back the water, and Mark Fors, who was in charge of the operation, finally came down to get the treasure. Parker was keen to find out if there was enough gold for them to risk everything. He went to one spot and moved the dirt around, but it needed to be better. He finally found some fine dirt in another part of the cut, which meant there was gold there. Parker chose to go work and come back in 2 days with the crew. But just when it looked like everything was going to plan and they were going to get some gold, something shocked the whole crew. There was a hole in the wall, and mud and water were pouring out of it. It was clear that Mother Nature was not on their side that day. The water that they thought they had gotten rid of was back, but this time it was stronger and a bigger problem than the last time. People on the crew didn't think this would happen. The Wolf Cut could be filled with it again, which would mean a big loss. An excavator hit the side of the pit while digging for pay at the bottom of the cut. This revealed a mine shaft that was full of water, which flooded millions of gallons of water back into the pit and filled the pay grounds. There was nothing wrong with the crew's preparation. They just needed to be more ready. They had one 8-inch pump, but they needed more to get the job done. The second pump was turned on, but it didn't make a big difference. There was still water coming in from all sides. The team lost the battle against the water after they turned on both pumps. They had no choice but to take the pump out of the wash plant. It was such a big choice, though, and Parker should have made the call. The problem was that he wasn't there or answering his phone. They were in a tough spot. The area would flood if they didn't pull the pump from the wash plant to help the other 2 pumps, and they would lose their pay in the Wolf Cut. It would be hard to believe how much would be lost. Tyler made the tough choice to turn off the wash plant and remove its pump, which doubled their ability to drain. They had to leave the area while the pumps did their thing. In 24 hours, the pumps took away 10 million gallons of water. Parker finally came back, and he was very excited to see the first edit of the Wolf Cut. Instead, people told him stories about the flood that had happened. Parker's trouble with water was still going on, though. In a different story, he came into contact with water again when his mining ground in the Wolf Cut was taken over by water. Underwater mine site. Parker was looking for a pay streak in the 4-acre Wolf Cut on his Alaskan claim. He hoped that it would bring him at least 1,000 ounces this season. The pay dirt was 30 feet below, and the team had to dig out 1,000 yards of extra material to get to it. 4 feet more, and they would be below water. After that, it would be 30 feet before they hit rocks. But things weren't really fine as they seemed at first. The process was going on right next to a pond, and water would be the first thing that would go wrong if something went wrong. Frozen mud was the best option because it kept the water out. Recruit John Baudry was told to deal with the mud and keep the water out, but it looked like the cut was pretty wet, so they had to call their boss. If not, things will go badly if they do. It turned out that the mud got worse and spread faster as they opened up more areas. They still hadn't even cut out a fifth of the area. The Wolf Cut is next to a pond that is pretty old. There was only a small berm between them, not strong enough to stand up to the water pressure if it was messed with. They dug down and found frozen ice that stopped the water from getting in. The permafrost was broken, which now lets pond water seep through the wall and flood the cut. The area will soon have a lot of water if they let it keep going. There was a need for action to save the day. They thought getting a pump would be the best thing for them to do. To fight the water,